ultimate talk of the day. Amazing. Well, we'll let everyone get seated and then we'll kick off. So yeah, hi everyone. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon for the Founders Panel. I'm really looking forward to getting stuck into this conversation where we'll be exploring the journey of these founders so far. From overcoming early challenges, scaling internationally, building the right teams, and the lessons learned along the way. So today I'm joined by Josh from Tala, James, founder of Skin & Me and Life Supplies, and Jojo, Manners Golf. So we've got a lot of ground to cover, and we are running slightly over already. So we will get stuck right in. So to begin with, I want to take it a bit back to the start. So every brand starts with a vision, potentially an idea to solve an issue, a gap in the market. But turning that idea into a reality is no easy feat. All of the brands here are at different stages of their journey, and Tala is celebrating their 10-year anniversary this year, which is massive, so well done. So Josh, I want to come to you first. Can you take us back? Did you have a moment of inspiration that led to founding Tala? What were some of the key events that led to that moment?
Thanks. Yeah, it's great to be here. There was kind of two key events that led to us starting Tala. Firstly, just meeting my co-founders, so meeting like-minded people who really care about the same thing. We met each other up in Scotland. We were studying together. We were really passionate about how to accelerate the low-carbon economy. What does that look like? How can we contribute towards that? And really, the second event was actually a pivot. So Tala, in its first form, was actually an energy company. We were doing rooftop solar projects, and through those projects, actually came across the problem and the pivot where architects were very eloquently complaining about lighting to us constantly. And that's where we had this moment after 12 months of really trying to scale this rooftop solar business where we said, let's go all in on building this solution in lighting. And it was that moment where the three of us looked at each other and said, let's really take the risk, dive in, build our own product. We gave ourselves a 12-month deadline to design and produce our first product. And people thought we were crazy. They were like, how can you build your own light bulb? How can you try and reinvent this category? And after 12 months, luckily, we were able to pull it off and build some distribution quite quickly.
Amazing. Beautiful lighting as well.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
James, going to come to you.
Sure. So I was coming off the back of my first exit in my early 30s, and I'd spent my 20s in software selling to businesses. I knew I wanted to try something in consumer. Me and my co-founder somehow found ourselves tinkering in the skincare industry, quite a fascinating market, really high gross margins, low return rate, high average order value, and it's a lot of people in the skincare market that spend a disproportionate amount of their income on the category. And so we were really intrigued to see where things were headed. There was a big trend in personalization, but it didn't really mean much. Most websites said they were personalized, but it was just a quiz, and it would direct you to one of their few products. So we set up this test website called mrandmrsoliver.com, and we just wanted to prove out, could we build a subscription business out of recommending skincare products to people? And half of it worked, half of it failed. We learned people really value this personalized experience and having their hand held and basically delegating their decision-making to us. But what ultimately the commercial business model was a disaster. But our takeaway from it was, well, how can we combine this personalization with something that would be really sticky? And that's what led us into prescription-grade ingredients. They really work. That means people will stay retained. That means you can build a great business around it. And that was 6 years ago.
Great, thank you. And Jojo?
Far less data-driven. We were playing a lot of golf, me and one of my co-founders. We didn't dress like the traditional golfer. We couldn't find our clothes that we wanted to wear on the golf course in pro shops. So we decided to use my background in marketing and his in the creative landscape to build, I guess, initially a product, and then through that a brand that we felt at least resonated with how we wanted to enjoy the game of golf. It's clearly a thesis that other people cared about enough as well. And so, 4 years on, we're still selling clothes.
I'm doing very well. Thank you, guys. So as founders, you will know all too well that the reality is most startups fail. They're high-risk situations, and as a founder, that is something that you need to be comfortable with. So growing and scaling a business obviously comes with the challenges, whether that's securing investment, maintaining quality and consistency as the brand expands, to ensuring operational efficiency at every level. So James, you've successfully scaled Skin and Me, and then I think just over a year and a half ago launched Life Supplies as well. So to begin with, I'll come over to you. Could you discuss some of the biggest challenges you faced and maybe what some of your biggest learnings have been so far?
Yeah, where to start? I mean, no matter what business you're building and no matter how strong your team is, you're going to encounter problems day after day after day. And your life is just ranking the most impactful problem to solve and working on that. So I don't think it ever goes away. The way that I try to approach starting a new business is building conviction quite early on in the business model. And we had our ways of doing that, for instance, at Skin and Me in the early days. Once we'd built conviction in it, it's then a game of execution. And like I said, there are perpetual problems. And so the biggest way to increase the chances of business success is to have a great team and a lot of money. Because if you have a lot of money, you can afford to make a lot of mistakes, and you have the time to solve those problems before you're going out to fundraise again. So my approach is, have a really big mission, build conviction early on, get great people into the business, and then raise as much money as you possibly can. Mm-hmm. So Skin and Me, I pulled together just a few $100,000 early on to build the core team, got some A-star players, then went out to raise £8 million, and then worked on actually launching the business 6 to 8 months later. And that meant we were in a strong position, to launch late if that happened, and to deal with problems if we needed to extend our runway. And I think we, in hindsight, kind of bet the house in Skin and Me on getting product market fit pretty quickly, but it paid off.
Great. Josh, anything to add?
Yeah, lots of scaling is challenging for sure. I mean, take even this week, I don't know how many people in the room have Chinese vendors dealing with tariffs. I think that is the correct thing of just ranking your challenges as a founder and as a business. Totally agree. It's about who's there with you to overcome those. I think over the years we've learned to just bring your customers and your vendors in ASAP on those challenges, and we found out that everyone's more helpful than you think, and you can really overcome those challenges. And actually stepping back, thinking really strategically, those are the moments in business when there might be a really big door just about to open or a big opportunity. So we've kind of learned that over the years of when there's a big moment of challenge, there's a huge opportunity just there as well.
Absolutely, I totally agree. And Jojo, anything from your side?
I think golf's a very antiquated sport traditionally. Clubhouses are 200 years old. The people that tend to work in them and run them tend to be not 200 years old, but not far off it. And so they have a very closed mind, or at least when we first launched the business, they had a very closed mind about hey, can we come and film, and can we, do a shoot, or, would you want to stock us? And we were always getting people saying no. And I think the great thing about where we are now is that they're very open-minded, but kind of because they had their hand forced, where they were like, well, we have to have these YouTubers in, or we have to let people come in, because otherwise our doors are going to be closed because we're not going to have the business anymore. So I think that initial pushback within the golf industry was very difficult. And then now the irony is that I think a lot of even clothing brands that have traditionally been in the space look to brands like ours to go, how can we take inspiration from what they're doing? Because they've been doing it for 3 years and are quite far ahead of us in many ways.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you. Now I want to talk a little bit about international growth. And I think, expanding beyond the home market is a really big milestone for most brands to achieve. I know both Tala and Manners have successfully done this, and a good proportion of your revenue streams comes from international markets. But we've obviously got political instability, inflation, the tariffs, which have been spoken a lot about over the last few days. Jojo, I'm going to stick with you. I know that Manners have done some really great partnerships with the PGA Tour, and just interested to hear how partnerships such as this have impacted your international growth, and any other kind of thoughts or learnings around that journey for Manners.
So we made the decision to invest very heavily at the very early stage in our business in content, specifically to get people in top of funnel. And this wasn't, this was at the opposite way, where a lot of brands were spending money in just paid ads. As a sort of example, we spend about 8% of our turnover is reflected in ads, which is relatively low for a brand which is 80% D2C. Why that's really important is because it meant that were seen as somewhat of an authority in content. That's because I've got an amazing team and a co-founder who's incredibly, creative. But that meant that people like the PGA Tour, which is for us just like obviously the biggest name within golf, came to us to say, hey, we need a bit of what you got. Yeah. And we'll also pay you to do it, which is fantastic. So that then allowed us to say, well, we'll do that, but we want you to distribute it. And that then puts us in front of their 1.6 million YouTube subscribers, opening up the door to a huge amount of, US eyeballs.
Yeah, it's a huge opportunity. And Josh, from your side, international.
Yeah, I think similarly, we went partner first, probably for the first 5 years of Tala. So working with the very best retailers in each market. So the products we were engineering and designing had a global fit across Europe and the US. So on hindsight, we probably went too early and got very excited about the US really quickly.
That's what everyone wants to break.
I think the lesson for us is just like balancing the trade-offs on where new opportunities are across geographies and channels, and what cost that's going to have on focus. Going in eyes wide open on those things has been quite useful for us when we're deciding whether to push a new market or a new channel. But that being said, some of these conversations, like the last year, we've been working with a new Japanese distributor. That conversation started 4 or 5 years ago. So I'd definitely say start the conversations earlier than you think, and then just be careful about the capital allocation in a really expensive market and what the true fully loaded costs are.
How are you feeling about the potential tariffs at the moment?
I mean, it's definitely challenging, but there's so many ways to attack the problem, so there'll be a way around it.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. So moving on to teams, and I think one of the key things being a founder, I imagine that one of the hardest things is to shift from the doing everything mindset to kind of leading and delegating and handing over responsibilities and really building a team that you kind of trust to stay true to your vision and your kind of purpose behind the brand. So I'd love to hear your thoughts around when did you realize was the right time to hire, and how did you determine which roles were most important early on? So yeah, Jojo, do you want to kick us off?
I don't have a degree, but if I did, it would be in delegation. Because like building a business, the most exciting thing is when you have enough money to hire better people. For me personally, logistics was the thing that I'm very dyslexic and just hated all of the forms and the taxes and now obviously tariffs, like that coming out of nowhere. So for me, it was logistics. That was a huge thing. And, the number of units we move a day 3 years ago versus today is thankfully a lot higher. And the only place I really want to double down is in there, because if I can get product more efficiently into the hands of our customers and then just rely on my conversion and, returns rate, then we're going to continue to build a bigger customer base as well.
Leaning into your strengths as well. And then James, I know we spoke about this a bit the other week as well, so.
Yeah, I guess my view is I don't want to manage anyone. I hate management. I'm not good at it. So if you want to work in my company, don't expect that, but do expect a lot of responsibility. We just want to bring in high agency people, basically, full stop. People who just want to get stuff done, don't need to be told what to do. You don't even need to tell them the problems that need solving. They'll solve them for you. And that creates just a great environment. In terms of specific roles, I guess, using Skin and Me as an example, early on we realized, okay, it was me and my one co-founder that was around in the early days, and we realized, well, we need to build a factory. I've never built a factory before. We need to build our whole tech stack, both the prescribing system, the system for the factory, and the whole website, all bespoke. Like no Shopify stack was going to work for us. So we needed a great tech guy, and then we needed someone to run brand and customer. So we brought in 3 people who were, basically a senior head of level, director level, ready to take the step up. they came into the business, we gave them co-founder titles, and that just changed everything, really. They, Horatio built the factory, and he built a team underneath him, and they built all these custom machines, and just, amazing things happened with those few key early hiring decisions. And so that's the playbook that I'm taking into all of my future companies.
Nice, thank you. Anything from your side?
Yeah, I think we've definitely learned over the years that I think promoting from within has been where our best success has come from. I think we learned some big lessons when we did our Series A. We hired too quickly, probably. And actually, over the last 10 years, we've learned that really fostering talent within is so powerful, and that really does compound. So yeah, hire slowly.
It's so rewarding as well when you see your team internally like growing, getting promoted, and for me, I think that brings me a lot of joy, kind of seeing how the team have grown with us as well. So just to quickly now touch on sustainability, because I know we're coming up to time. But yeah, Josh, I know that Tala is a B Corp, and Skin and Me have a big emphasis on kind of sustainable commitments around kind of like packaging and everything like that. And one of your missions, Josh, is to become zero carbon. So could you just talk a little bit around how you balance sustainability and profitability? And are there kind of any innovations in your space at the moment which you're particularly excited about?
Yeah, I think sustainability for Tala is definitely foundational. It's not a feature. So it's really at the core of why a retailer or a designer will be working with us. That tends to be the key reason. Very much in the beginning, it was about energy efficiency. Now, as our catalog's expanded and we've entered lots of new categories, it's really about design for repair, the afterlife of your product, really thinking deeply about those things and tying it to profitability. Like when customers or big retailers know that you really care holistically about your business, I do think it helps you command a better price point in the market, and ultimately is a great way to look at retention or brand discovery. So being a B Corp, going through that process, it does really tune you to actually just have a better organization fundamentally, rather than it just being about the product energy efficiency. So yeah, we've definitely learned a few things there. Our industry, luckily, is moving quite quickly. The material science, upcycled materials, we can now all viably integrate much better materials and circular practices into our products. So that's been really exciting to see the momentum on the vendor-based side.
Nice. We also became a B Corp last year, and it's definitely not an easy process to go through.
No, it is no joke.
So, yeah, well done. And James, interested to hear your thoughts.
Sure. So at Skin and Me, we were fascinated by the fact that basically medicine has been delivered to people in the same packaging since as long as you can look back. So oral treatments come in little blister packs, and topical treatments would come in a plastic dispenser or a plastic tube. And there were a few problems with that. One is that people don't know how much to dispense. In dermatology, it's called an FTU, fingertip unit, but everyone has different sized fingers, and so you're meant to just use your best guess. It doesn't fill people with confidence that they're using the right amount of treatment on their face. So we wanted to take on this challenge of creating a bespoke piece of packaging that could give people the perfect dose. And we literally worked for a long time with dermatologists, testing different people's faces and absorption rates, and found the perfect dose. And then we developed this aluminium-based piece of packaging called the Daily Doser, which dispenses the perfect dose. So it's been great to move people away from standard plastic tubes there. And it's also just been a really iconic feature of the brand. We launched into retail at the end of last year, and we learned just how recognized this Daily Doser is. In my newer business, Life Supplies, which is, yes, it started a year and a half ago, but we've actually pivoted the business at the start of this year to be an oral care brand. In the UK alone, 300 million plastic toothpaste tubes go to landfill every year. And so we took on this challenge of trying to get people away from plastic. It's easy in certain product formats, but not in toothpaste, because your typical toothpaste eats away at the compostable packaging. So it took a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of risk, but we've now finally got it working in literally a sugarcane sachet is what your toothpaste comes in. and then you dispense that into a glass and metal bottle. So it's been like super rewarding. It makes things slower and harder, and there are definitely moments where I question, should we really have just bloody used some aluminium tubes? But yeah, we pushed through, and it's really set the standard in our business, and it's also a really inspiring part of the company culture, and it's why people want to be involved in the business, because they know we're going to do more and more stuff like that.
That's really interesting. I feel like I'm going to give that a go and see what it's like.
Yeah.
Amazing. So final question. So quick fire round. If you were to go back to day one, what would one piece of advice be that you would give yourself? So Jojo, I'm going to kick off with you.
I would say make sure you enjoy it more. It's easy just to always focus on the things that take a lot of your time and maybe are slightly more boring and glaze over the wins. That's definitely a key thing. And be careful where you spend your money, because you're going to spend it a lot quicker than you think you are.
Thanks. James?
Wow, just honestly, 10x, however I was thinking, I would tell myself, just go bigger, you're going to die. The person running the corner shop is working just as hard as Elon Musk quite often, if not harder. So you may as well take on bigger challenges. I spent way too long. I grew up in the Northeast. I set up my first business in the Northeast. My co-founder didn't have a really big vision. That's ultimately why we clashed. I should have not gone to uni, because for me, wanting to start a business, that just slowed me down. And I should have got straight on a plane to somewhere like San Francisco or New York or London. So yeah, I would have just changed my environment, because no one is immune to peer pressure, and so I would have just leveled up the peers that I had.
Nice. Yeah, if I could go back and chat to myself when I was 25, it'd probably be to hire behind the revenue curve, not in front of it. Be really careful with capital allocation and like really take that in.
Nice.
And yeah, I agree with Jojo. Like you really do have to enjoy the ride and hopefully surround yourself with great people for all the ups and downs. But yeah.
Amazing. Some great takeaways. So thank you very much, guys, for joining us. And yeah, thank you, everyone. We've got one thing left now here on the stage. But yeah, enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.